Mr. Gareth Davies. It feels like it's been a while. I feel like I've only missed one, haven't I? It's only last week that I missed, right? Feels
Yeah,
like I've missed age. So many.
you missed because you were sunning yourself somewhere, which we'll get into in a moment. But we missed you. Let's put it that way.
Thank you, sir.
We missed you. Yeah, you've missed one. I was I did my show. I did this show. I did the presenting in your position with Dave Caldwell last week, who's always a good understudy for you. I'll say that.
He is good.
He is
very,
very,
very
good,
good,
David. And we had a good show, and obviously we get the chance to speak about I can't believe Itauma was only a week and a half ago. Itauma, Dillian White. I've been away as well. Like, you had a little break to the Eastern Mediterranean, took a little bit of sun. But I've been really enjoying the weather and lots of cycling, lots of paddleboarding, and lots of wellness, lots of vitamin D, basically. And you look like you've had a load of it yourself.
I have at a cost, a financial cost. I've had to remortgage the house. No, I was in Mykonos in Greece, which is a lovely place. Obviously, look, it's got this, I guess, reputation now as being just a bit fancy pants, but there are spots of it which are so nice where you're off the beaten track, and it does cost a lot, I will say that. But there's always ways to do holidays, right? There's always, you can find a way to make it cheaper. I just have a partner that likes the non-cheap side of things.
I think you're digging a hole for yourself right now, and a big hole that you're going to have to drop into when this show goes out on air.
Probably. Very quickly, on Dave Caldwell, you mentioned sort of a great understudy, and look, I do think he is incredible. He's played every single role in boxing. He's done promoter, manager, trainer, fighter. There's not many that tick every single box. So his experience for shows like this is sort of invaluable because he's done every single role.
When we were building up to Usyk against Dubois, his analysis of Alexander Usyk was brilliant for us because obviously he prepared Tony Bellew for Alexander Usyk.
Yes.
And that was the fight in which Bellew outboxed Usyk for 5 or 6 rounds before exhaustion took over. And Usyk then took over and then stopped Tony Bellew, which he describes brilliantly. And David was brilliant on Usyk, and he said the only thing he could identify as a weakness in Usyk was the body punching. If I'm honest, I think that's now gone with Usyk. I think the body punching that people have brought up against him in the last fight with Fury wasn't really there. But Dave's got an amazing backstory, and if you want to know more about David, myself and Spencer Oliver did an episode of My Life in Boxing with him.
Yeah.
In which it's very, very harrowing. He had a terribly harrowing upbringing. I don't know if you've seen it yet or know about this, but he used to be beaten mercilessly by his mother, you know. And he was really affected growing up with a lack of confidence. And you wouldn't think that with Dave, you know, like he's a man who walks tall. And he's a wonderful, wonderful family man that he talks about. He's a great guy. And like you say, if you want the nuts and bolts of boxing and the bigger picture as well, he's a great guy to have on. No one's you. No one's got 100,000 YouTube followers quite like you have, which you've been celebrating. You got some go on, bring it up. Let's have a look.
Might as well. Hey, look at that. 100,000 subs.
Well,
Oladipo,
for all those watching, I need 100,000 now as well because I'm going to get going with my YouTube channel that I'm very lazy with. I've got just under 20,000. I'm going to work hard at it. So all those watching this show who follow Addy, please like and subscribe to my channel so that I can get my little trophy for one of my shelves behind me.
Yeah, and you will easily get it as well. I've just said this before we press the record button that Gareth jumps on so many YouTube channels, and they always get big numbers. Like every time you're on, they're always big numbers. So people clearly want to hear what you have to say. So I think if you were to start and be consistent, you know, 2 or 3 videos a week, I think you'll get that 100,000 subscriber number very, very quick. All right. Me and you could chat forever about everything other than what's on the script here. Jack Rafferty, Mark Chamberlain. It's funny because I was flying back in and the fight was on, and then I was able to kind of rewatch it when I got home, and it turned into what I think most people thought it was going to turn into, which is one of those domestic dust-ups which live long in the memory. That was a fantastic scrap, which ended in a draw, which I thought was fair, and I guess they got to do it again.
Yeah, and definitely a contender for fight of the year. Chamberlain left southpaw lefty worked very well early in the fight. He looked ahead. I was actually talking to Dan Aziz, who was in the talkSPORT studio, and we'll get on to that. And the fight in Nigeria on Independence Day.
Yeah.
Independence Day from the British, I think it is as well.
It is.
So we
You are
need to make
correct.
that point. I didn't make it on Saturday night as we talked about Fela Kuti and all things Yoruba and all sorts of things with Dan, who's a beautiful human being. I've got to say that, a really wonderful man. But my side askance, I was looking at the fight, and it looked like Chamberlain was bossing the fight early on. But Rafferty really learnt a lot about himself in this fight and came back, because Chamberlain wasn't just big punching, heavy punches. He boxed really well. It was a really interesting fight, a contender for fight of the year, certainly on these shores with Ben and Eubank. And I agree with you. It looked very close in the end. And well done, Rafferty, for coming back into the fight. And we probably get to see it again.
We do. All right, let's go back a week ago. It does feel so much longer ago, but let's go back to Saudi Arabia if we can, because I do think there is still sort of spillage. People are talking about what next for both, who's Moses going to fight, what's going on with Dillian. I haven't had your thoughts on it, just because obviously we didn't do the show together, and I was so upset that I wasn't going to do the show, because I felt like we were going to really have a deep dive into everything Moses Itauma. Very quickly, were you surprised? Because you saw my post-fight interview as well, where I said I was surprised, and I think Frank said he was surprised at just how quick that ended. Were you surprised?
Not really. Once I saw them in the ring together, obviously I was a few feet away from you because I spoke to Moses afterwards and Charles's dad. I was in a corner staying away from the camera because they get sensitive about it with our talkSPORT microphone, myself and Romario diving in.
I saw you straight away. As soon as I finished my interview, I turned around and I saw you right behind me in the ring.
Well, I
was like, God, it's
out of the way of them doing the group photos and you know, it was great to, just digressing again, it was great to meet I know his father, Charles, already, but it was great to get Charles on camera in Fight Week, and his beautiful laugh and him joking about he's not the one responsible for Moses being who he is. It's a joint venture, as he called it, between him and his wife. And then he's got a great laugh. I think anyone that knows Moses really well, and I've been lucky enough to be at the launch lunch with him, to go to Bromley earlier in the year and see him, and actually have some time about him sketching out the year with Francis Warren, and to see the development of the young man from being kind of a gruff, curt young thing to being to working out that he does need to speak to the media, that he does need to start to come out and talk and explain himself. And what I like about him is he's got a radar in the ring and outside it. If you ask him a question, he'll question the question. He's got the level of arrogance he needs. I think as soon as he stepped into the ring, as soon as they were looking at each other quizzically about why is this going on too long, I got the feeling that Ben Davison had briefed him that Dillian might make him wait a bit longer in the ring, and they're all kind of like, their eyebrows and their eyes were rolling, and they were going, oh yeah, Dillian's playing this game. And as soon as Dillian walked out, I just thought the way Moses fixed on him, and then the way he went to work with patience and panache and precision and poise and then power, you just thought, wow, we're just witnessing something very special here. So, yes, I was surprised in a way, but no, I'm not surprised at how good he is, because we work in this industry. We talk all week. We talk to people. When Ben says he's a generational talent, Ben doesn't lie about his fighters. When you hear the the sparring sessions with Fury, when you hear about the Tyson Fury, when you hear about the story when he was 15 and he sparred with Joe Joyce, when you hear him telling us in Fight Week that when he was 14, he was DMing Dillian White, say, can I come down to your sparring sessions? He was 14, for God's sake, 6 years ago, when Dillian was at his very best. When you see, hear, feel, and when you're around all this, you go, yeah, we're looking at someone special. So all it comes down to now, Addy, is how they manage his invincibility bubble. Because if that bursts, and this is what I do want to finish by saying, Emma Raducanu can win the US Open as a qualifier at 18. Luke Littler can win the world title at 17. Wayne Rooney can win on the pitch at 17 for England. And they can lose their next match. He can't. That's the difference between those sports people and Moses. So where he goes from here is the big thing for me. It's all down to now how they marry and match him with other fighters.
It's a great way of ending that, or at least continuing the conversation. You're right. Emma Raducanu can go on and lose 20, 30, 40 matches and then win the next 5 and 6 and she's won another Grand Slam. It's fine. Yeah. Everyone's forgotten about the 30, 40 prior. You're right. Wayne Rooney can lose games for Everton. Doesn't matter. As long as he then puts the ball in the back of the net a few games later. As a heavyweight coming up, he can't lose. If he is going to be that next sort of shining light over here, people just won't accept him. Not just not losing. I mean, how many times did AJ kind of have to be shown that left hook Dillian White caught him with? Didn't even lose the fight. But because Dillian White rocked him, it was like, oh, AJ's chin might be a bit... So you can't even get hit. It's actually quite crazy. But I think he looks incredible. He's grown as well, Gareth. Yeah. I remember when I first saw him, and you can testify to this, I remember thinking, he might be a bit too small.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's grown 2 or 3 inches and put on 20 pounds. And not 20 pounds of fat. His physique's quite weird because he's 245, 246, but he doesn't look muscle-bound like Dubois or AJ. He still looks quite slender, which is quite strange. It's all like the distribution of his muscles all over the place. But I think we might have something here, Gareth. I think we might have something here. I mean, you've covered this for 40 years. Did you feel it in Fight
Week? Did you feel it as we were... Obviously, we saw each other all week, every day at the set. Yeah. Did you got to do... I think you did the gloves are off with them as well, didn't you?
I did the face-off, yeah.
Did you get a sense then about... I know Dillian was kind of within himself a little bit and wasn't really giving much out at that point. In fact, when he came and did an interview with talkSPORT halfway through the week, he let rip. I don't know if you saw that. And he said he'd F the team up, and sorry for my swearing, he said he would F the team up. He would F Moses up and his team up if he started to try and act like a bad man. What was your sense about being around him day by day throughout the week?
I actually thought and felt at the time that Moses was a bit nervous around Dillian, especially during the face-off. I was like, okay, it was the first time I looked at Moses and I thought, okay, you are just 20 and you've watched this guy, Dillian, wreck people mentally, physically, emotionally for the last, I don't know, decade or so. So I felt it was the first time I felt was a bit nervous. But then, I don't know, I think maybe his dad being around helped calm him down a little bit and just kind of give him the extra, don't worry, the whole team's here with you type vibe. But I felt like he looked a bit nervous Fight Week. And I did say this to him. I said, normally, you're on the undercard, you turn up on the Friday, do some interviews, put your gloves and shorts on the Saturday and go home. This is the first time you're having to kind of be front and center and you're carrying your own show. What's that like? Doing all these interviews and Sky Sports and BBC, as you say, talkSPORT, DAZN, everyone wanting a piece of you. I wanted to see how he could handle that. And I felt like in the end, it was draining, but he got through it. But it's draining. If you've never done it before, he's gone from being an undercard to main event in a pay-per-view. Not main event in a normal fight night, but main event. So he's taken 4 or 5 leaps in his last fight. So I thought he did well, all things considered, but I did think he looked a bit nervous during Fight Week.
What about what we didn't see at the face-off when they turned up and then they finished afterwards? Did you... Because those moments are not often seen.
You know what helped Moses a little bit in that moment? And it's a good point you make. is that Dillian put it on me.
Okay, that's right.
So I
That's
think that
right. He
helped
did. I
Moses. So that
remember
almost
now. He did.
deflected. Yeah, so right at the end, Dillian
I
kind of said
saw
a couple
your
of
pick.
things.
I saw. No, you're backtracking.
Yes.
I got that
Yeah.
as well
So,
from Michael Ofo.
yeah, there you go. So I think that helped Moses that normally, as you say, after those face-offs, the fighters actually still go at each other, which you don't really see. But they didn't do that because Dillian kind of went at me a little bit. So I think that helped Moses. So Moses, if you're watching this, you owe me a little bit of a pat on the back because I took a big deflection.
Took a hit for the team.
Took a hit for the team. On Dillian, he has come out on social media yesterday. I put an Instagram post up saying, "This is not where my story ends. I may have lost the fight, sorry, but not the fire that built me." And he did say he will be back. What do you make of that? Again, it's not just the Moses Itauma defeat. It's obviously performances prior to that. It's been a while since we've seen a good Dillian White. He looks in incredible shape, but ultimately, you've got to deliver in the ring. I understand why fighters don't want to go out like that, but does there need to be a conversation within the team to decide if this is the sensible thing to do?
Oh no, he's definitely got another fight, or maybe even two in him. I mean, you still watch White against Parker, although you'd probably make Joseph Parker a big favourite right now. You'd still watch Derek Chisora against Dillian White. I mean, I think Derek Chisora was out there picking fights with everyone all week, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was upset that the fights were made.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there's no way Dillian's going to go out like that. He's going to want one more fight. He probably hasn't got a lot left. But again,
True.
you've got to look at who he was up against in this. He was up against the kid I call the Takeover, and I think this is the beginning of the takeover now. How far that takeover goes of this era, I don't know, because as Tyson Fury indicated, that he's kind of admitted that Moses would beat him as well. I think he virtually admitted that a few days ago, that, come on, guys, this kid's taking over and he'd beat all of us. And it's a little dig at Usyk as well, because he thinks he'd beat Usyk. I'm not sure about that, but I don't think we'll see it deep down, hand on heart. I don't think we'll see Moses against Usyk, because he's got too much money to lose his legacy over needing more money, which is what's happened in the past when Larry Holmes stayed around to fight Mike Tyson, for example.
You know, on final one on Dillian, will there be any changes? Do there need to be any changes? Obviously, look, I think Buddy McGirt's a great former champion, a great trainer who's trained some great people. I mean, look what he's done to Callum Smith. I think he's invigorated Callum Smith. But I don't know if it's worked with Dillian. I was watching some old tapes with Dillian, and it could be an age thing, but I thought Dillian and Mark Tibbs had such a good sort of rapport. It seemed to just to work between those two. I don't know if we've seen the best of Dillian with Buddy McGurk, and some might argue that and say, well, yeah, but Dillian's been out the ring for so many different sort of periods, so he's not had time to really sort of knuckle down with Buddy. But I do wonder if there is just the last final chapter, the last 2 or 3 fights, does there need to be a change in the corner?
Well, who's that going to be? That's the problem. He and Buddy.
Does he go back to Mark Tibbs?
Maybe. Mark Tibbs has probably got more time now with Johnny Fisher having gone. So there's possibility of that. But I think Buddy and Dillian have got on very well. It's 3 years. So who knows? He's based out there in Portugal. He's living his best life in Portugal. I think Dillian just doesn't want to be remembered by that performance where for 119 seconds he was absolutely dominated. I don't even remember him landing a punch, but maybe that's my mind.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
I hear this could be apocryphal, but I hear in sparring that people like Daniel Dubois can't lay a glove on him, that he has life and death with Tyson Fury behind the scenes when they're sparring. We know, as I said earlier on, that he's been chasing people since he was 14 to spar with them. He's a freak. And, but he can't afford to lose. So whatever Dillian does next, I'm behind. I liked the outpouring of sympathy that was there for Dillian, but it's a brutal business, and time waits for no man in this sport. And to coin Fury's phrase again, it's a young man's sport, and we're seeing that in the heavyweight division right now, Addy.
Very quickly, before we hear from former IBF champion Daniel Dubois on what's happened with him, two names. Who you want to see Moses Itauma fight next, and who you think Moses Itauma will fight next?
I think he might fight. I know Filip Hrgović is a guy that they like the level of and the style of him. Still a difficult fight, but I think he handles him. The cut on the eye probably will preclude that happening this year because it needs to heal. Jarrell Miller, I'd like to see him in with. I think that might give him some rounds. Maybe Justice Hooney in boxing terms.
Good shout. Like that a lot.
Or just put him straight in with Caballel or Parker. Ajit Caballel or Joseph Parker.
Okay, there you go. All right, let's hear from Daniel Dubois. Remember, former IBF heavyweight champion. We haven't heard much from Daniel Dubois since he lost to Alexander Usyk. We have now, because he's exclusively told us why he's moving on from trainer Don Charles.
So, Daniel, now you've split from your trainer, Don Charles. Was that your decision?
Yeah, 100%. Just thinking, looking back, Don's been great for me. We won a world title together, but I was just thinking about moving forward and how I can improve myself. And, yeah, that was my decision.
Daniel there telling us, Gareth, that, it's his decision to leave Don Charles and not his dad's, which I don't know how many people will believe, because we know the influence that Stan has when it comes to what Daniel Dubois does in the boxing circles. What do you make of this? Like, I feel very, very sort of sorry for Don and sad for Don at the same time. I feel like that link up in relationship with Daniel, we've seen how it's profited Daniel, but I also feel like it's given Don a lease of life as well. His first world champion, 3 magnificent victories, Hrgović, Jarrell Miller, AJ. To lose to Alexander Usyk, a generational great, doesn't mean you rip up the script and start again. You just lost to Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, exactly. That is the point. I mean, obviously the time with Don and Daniel is bookended by the 2 Usyk defeats. But it's down to the greatness of Usyk, not the lack of coaching, mentoring of Don Charles, who I think did a brilliant job with him. We spoke always in glowing terms, even though I got hammered by Don over the Joshua defeat live on talkSPORT for half an hour.
It's up on YouTube if you want to watch it. People.
I got the half an hour roasting from Mr. Charles and Mr. Dubois, which has been put to bed since. The roasting won't live long in the memory, but the fact that he's got that victory, the brilliant victory at Wembley, will always be there. Yeah, it seems a little, this often happens with fighters that they feel like after a loss they need to go and rediscover and discover and find something else and unearth something else. It's just the nature of the beast, and I do, like you say, it feels like Don's been thrown on the heap, and he created that farm. I don't know if you went up to the farm at all.
I did.
And Don, I remember Don telling me proudly how he built it for Daniel. So there's that. It sticks in the craw a little bit for him over that. But it's a cutthroat business. Tony Sims, I know it's not been made official yet, but we know it's Tony Sims. Very similar old school trainer who won't change that much and will try and finesse the smaller points. I think Daniel is what he is, and which is when he's on top, he's a very dangerous fighter, and when he's not on top, he'll succumb and he just lives to fight another day. I don't think much is going to change with Daniel. He might lose another 3 and win another 5 in his career. He may win a world title again, but I'm not sure he does when the division plays out. And I played that game the other day, I think with Adam Catterall on talkSPORT, and I said, does he win this? Does he win that? Does he win this? Does he win that? And through that course of Daniel's next 5 or 6 fights or 8 fights, he doesn't win a world title.
I will end it by saying I didn't think he would win a world title first time round, so you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Yeah.
Does he
All right,
beat
listen, we
Parker?
found out-
Does he beat Parker?
Could beat Parker, yeah.
Does he beat Caballel?
No.
Does he beat Itauma?
No.
Okay, so if Parker becomes a world champion, there's a chance for him. Does he beat
There's a
Wardley?
chance. Oof, yes.
Well, I hope we see all these fights anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, which has been announced for November on Netflix. No surprise there. I guess the only surprise is Eddie Hearn, if you listened to any of his last 20 interviews, made it seem like we are very, very close to Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. I think Eddie even said it's 80% done. All of a sudden, it kind of gets gazumped as Jake Paul will fight Gervonta Davis instead. What's the bigger fight, Jake Paul versus AJ or Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis?
They're both big. One's big in America, one's big in the UK, basically.
Okay, but yeah, that's too much of a cop-out. Which one gets more numbers on Netflix? Worldwide.
Probably AJ and Jake Paul.
It's close though, isn't it? It's close.
It is,
yeah,
but you know, one is watching David beating up Goliath, and one is Goliath absolutely pummeling David. So, and you obviously know which is which, because compared to Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul is David in terms of Goliath. So, they're both big rubbernecking fights. They're both car crashes. One should never be allowed, and that's AJ. We've been over this. AJ and Jake Paul should not be in the ring together. It's just too dangerous for Jake Paul. However, Gervonta Davis in a ring with Jake Paul, I think Jake Paul may barely land a glove on him. But the 8-inch height discrepancy, 7 weight divisions, 5 stone in weight. It's a very odd matchup. It really is a circus act. And yet, we're all going to watch it on the Friday of Ben Eubank 2, Conor Ben, Chris Eubank 2, because we're all going to be over here and busy with that one. And none of us are going to be at Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis, which is, so it's announced at a really odd time. I think they've forgotten that there's a big stadium fight going on over here. I've got a feeling they might even change the date as a result eventually. Stranger things have happened.
I couldn't agree more. It's almost as though they've, obviously, look, it's a big fight. Jake Paul, every time he gets in the ring, it's a big fight. With Gervonta, it's even bigger. But it's almost as though they forgot that there is an enormous fight over here, which I think the eyeballs of the world, because of how it played out the first time, will be keen to watch again. And then the week after, obviously, everyone's going to be in Saudi for Benavidez versus Yard and that fantastic fight card. So I do think they might have to look at the date of this. You know, it is weird, isn't it? I mean, Jake Paul's wanted to fight AJ, he's wanted to fight Canelo, he's wanted to fight Gervonta Davis, which says to me he just wants to fight the biggest names in boxing, regardless of size and weight and whether or not they're fresh and old and young. He just wants to fight. So I have to give him credit for that. In a weird way. I mean, people might say he's bullying Gervonta by fighting someone that he's so much bigger, but he was going to fight AJ. He was that close. And for those that are listening, not watching, an inch away from fighting Canelo.
Yeah.
So this is the guy that just wants to jump in the ring with anyone as long as it pays him the most money. Who's favorite here?
Oh, definitely Gervonta.
Okay.
Definitely.
So the size doesn't take away from the fact.
We can't pick a winner because it's an exhibition, so it's going to be, and that's obviously the semantics to just get around the fact that they can get it licensed and commissioned, you know, and that they're going to wear balloons on their hands, you know. So
which I absolutely hate, by the way.
Yeah, because
we know Gervonta does carry the power. I don't know if it's enough power to knock out Jake Paul, but he does carry power, and you want to see the opportunity of Gervonta knocking out, as you say, David knocking out Goliath.
Yeah, I mean, what he comes up to Jake Paul's navel. That's the problem. So I can't wait for them to face off with each other because the height discrepancy, the size discrepancy is just going to be frightening. And also, Gervonta is someone that rises, doesn't he? And Jake, they're going to wind each other up in a big time. This has been talked about for 4 years. When it was first mentioned, I just thought, nah, that can't possibly happen. When AJ and Jake Paul, and I did the same, I spoke in person, live and direct with Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith in Riyadh, just to confirm the AJ, and they were the same with me, Eddie. That yeah, we're going ahead with it. We're that close, as you say, to getting the fight made. I couldn't believe that one. The thing is, a lot of Jake Paul stuff I can't believe. I couldn't believe it when Mike Tyson was announced, for example. Yeah. I remember we were in Riyadh while that was announced. But you know, people, and it's good that you mentioned Canelo there in the same breath as Jake Paul, because he's got such a resonance, he's got such a big platform that people just don't say no to him. And that's the power of this modern era and the internet.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he will fight Canelo. It's going to happen. It's just a case of when. On Gervonta, obviously, look, his last fight was Lamont Roach. I mean, I know Shakur Stevenson's in the division, but many still consider Gervonta to be the number one. He's 30. He's in his peak right now. Why is he doing this? And I know the answer will be money, but it's not like he's making pocket change in his fights that he does have. Like, isn't this bad for boxing that one of the faces of boxing, a pound for pounder, the number one in the division, is literally pausing to go and have an exhibition fight when there is a queue of guys at 135 or 140. For the last 2 years or 3 years that me and you have done this show, we've always spoken about those four kings and Gervonta fighting this guy and that guy, and we've listed them out. And the swelling of names just gets bigger and bigger because there's another challenger. And he isn't taking the challenges. And all of a sudden, look, if he had fight Shakur and fight Devin, I'd be like, okay, you know, sail off into the sunset and do whatever you want because you've given us those fights. He's given us Ryan. That's it. And there's no disrespect to Lamont Roach, but in terms of superstar name, he's given us one. I'm like, isn't there a bit of anger that he's not given us what we hoped he would have given us?
I don't know if it's anger, but it's certainly disappointment, Eddie. And I think pound for pound, looking at it on a canvas, he is the biggest potential name in American boxing. Because he's controversial, he's out there, he is very cool as well. There's something very cool about him. He's got talent for days, and I know Ryan Garcia's got an extraordinary social media following. But in terms of looking back with Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather and characters in American boxing sporting history, he's the big name. He is the name. And because he's with Al Heyman and PBC, they don't over-promote either. So he isn't as big as he should be. So I agree with you. So there is a big disappointment there because, and this is very important, very germane right now because we're fast approaching. I know we'll talk about it on the show. Canelo and Crawford, Saul Canelo or Alvarez and Terence Crawford, and we're 2.5 weeks away from that. And I've already booked, and I am definitely going to it because it's a big moment in American boxing history. This with Dana White, Turki Al-Sheikh, Unified Boxing Organization, a new belt being created, TKO Holdings being involved. Is this the moment where boxing in America is going to be saved? Can it be saved? If it can be saved, Gervonta Davis needs to be center, middle, and back. Sorry, front, middle, and back, because he is a pivotal figure in all of this. In my view, they need to get him involved with Shakur Stevenson, that whole band of brothers from 135 to 147, from Tio, Devin, Ryan, Shakur, Tank, Keyshawn, Boots. I know I'm going slightly bigger and bigger here. Boots, Crawford. Crawford's probably a little bit too big now, but get all those guys together. This is the only way for me they're going to break the mold in America and make it bigger again, is by having all these guys fighting each other, which should have been happening in the last 3 years anyway. And in my view, Turki Al Sheikh should have been doing this with Dana White while he was doing the heavyweight division and bringing the heavyweights that we know already to America at the same time as well. Because right now, there's 5 sports in every sports bar in America, and boxing ain't one of them. It's ice hockey, basketball, baseball, American football, and MMA, and it's the UFC. And to get that change, you need all those characters. And my ultimate argument here is Gervonta Davis needs to be at the center of that.
Okay.
Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I completely agree, but I've completely lost patience with it all. Like we've not had Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson. There was a lot of talk recently about Shakur versus Tio, and those two have gone back and forth over social media, and no fights happened. We've not had Tio versus Devin, and you think with all the money that's involved right now, and you still can't get these guys to dance with each other. I don't know what the issue is anymore.
Is there a danger? Can I ask you before we move on? Is there a danger that if Gervonta earns 30 million from this one, or 40 million for fighting Jake Paul, that we maybe don't see him again?
Yeah, 100%. He looks fed up with boxing. Like when you see him do his interviews, he just doesn't want to be there, looks fed up. His last couple of performances, I don't think, have been fantastic against Frank Martin. I know he stopped Frank Martin and obviously Lamont Roach won. I just feel like he's got so much outside issues. Let's not just forget, he's had big outside problems, this kid. He's obviously been scarred from childhood. And where before he's had spokespeople for him in Leonard Ellaby and Floyd Mayweather. They're no longer there. Now he's having to do it front and center, and he doesn't like doing it. And I just feel like, as you say, if he makes 40, 50 million, I think he might just say, you know what, we're good. We're good. He's not a spring chicken. People
or
think
he disappears for a year again, or he disappears for a year.
Yeah, and then he comes back because his name would always generate a big money fight. But I just wonder if the hunger's there anymore. Like we've been, as I said, we've been talking about these kids when they were kids. They're all now men with multiple kids of their own, and we haven't seen them fight. It's a crazy situation. What happens with AJ now then? Is it Tony Yoka? I mean, Frank Smith and AJ's manager were in Ghana looking at a stadium. I don't know if they were trying to just tease us with the idea of AJ fighting in Ghana against Tony Yoka. But what happens with AJ? Is it Tony Yoka? Is it Fury? What is going to happen with him?
Well, mentioning Dan Aziz again, who was in the studio on Saturday night, who who's going to fight in Nigeria. Why on earth isn't AJ? Maybe there isn't enough money. That'll be why. But why isn't AJ involved in that with Amir Khan Promotions on Independence Day in Nigeria? It seems like the perfect opportunity. They are talking. Frank Smith is talking Ghana, Accra for Anthony Joshua. I think it will happen. And it's great to see, by the way, the two big rivals in Africa hosting more boxing. It's brilliant, or even hosting boxing. Dan Aziz said the talent over there is just extraordinary. And he's taking equipment over there himself now as well, which is brilliant. It's good. You and I have talked about the rise of Africa for a long time in boxing, and it's something that puts a smile on our faces. And I only say it as not because I'm African, but because, as you know, I've spent time in Nigeria and loved my time there, and I always speak fondly of it because I had an amazing time. And the physicality of the Ghanaians, the Ugandans, even the Ugandans love boxing. Nigerians love boxing. So I hope Anthony Joshua fights in Africa, because right now he ain't going to be fighting Tyson Fury. And we've got this irony of people talking about Deontay Wilder and Francis Ngannou fighting right now. And Ngannou will have fought Wilder Joshua and Fury, and yet we haven't had Fury and Joshua, and we haven't had Wilder and Joshua. I mean,
That's crazy.
How crazy is boxing to do that?
That blows my mind. That absolutely blows my mind. That Ngannou could fight Wilder, Fury, and AJ
in this era.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's possible, isn't it?
It certainly is. All right, let's hear from Matchroom CEO Frank Smith. He did speak to us over the weekend and was asked as well, what's the bigger fight, AJ versus Jake Paul or AJ versus Tyson Fury?
What's the biggest fight? Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, or Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury?
Come on.
People won't like the answer. From a views perspective and a commercial perspective on a global scale, Anthony Joshua against Jake Paul. But from a hardcore boxing fan, obviously I don't want to hear that. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury is a huge fight. It's a mega fight. We've spoken about it for years. But like I said earlier, we live in a wild world now where Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul is a fight that huge numbers would be generated and huge viewership would be generated. So that is the bigger fight.
CEO of Matchroom there, Frank Smith, says AJ versus Jake Paul. It's bigger than AJ versus Tyson Fury. Wow. Says a lot, doesn't it? Says a lot. And it says, I guess it says to the power of Jake Paul, because I think AJ versus Fury does 3 million pay-per-view buys over here.
I have no words, my friend. I have no words. I mean, it does leave you speechless. But this is as he said at the time, as I asked that question, which is the bigger fight? And he paused and he said, it's AJ and Jake Paul.
I don't believe that. I think if you do a worldwide tour for AJ versus Fury, and I mean, you go to America, Fury will sell it. You go to Africa, you go to Asia, you do it no, I don't believe it. I just, no.
What AJ and Fury does, Eddie, is what I love about it, if it does happen, and I hope it does, and it'd be staggering if we go through the whole of this year, 2025, without Fury having a fight and without AJ having a fight, which looks more and more likely that we've got a 12-month hiatus for both men, or an entire year's hiatus. It bookends the era, and that's why so many of us who are involved in this era will be so disappointed if they never step into a ring together, because they've been on this trajectory together for a decade. And, it's 5 years ago now that they were very close to meeting twice in Saudi Arabia on a 2-fight deal. And the trouble is they're both so wealthy now. Their egos are so big. And I don't mean that in a rude way towards them. And because neither of them will want to lose to the other. It may take something special, a meeting by chance or whatever it's going to be, just to get both of them into a ring and agree on it. But it's not going to.
Honestly, it might do that. It might be where they're both randomly shopping at Tesco.
Yeah,
and they bump into each other and have a little sit down and a chat. Like, remove everyone else from this. I think Errol Spence said he did this with Terence Crawford, where he actually phoned Terence and said, "Okay, let's negotiate this between ourselves. Let's remove everyone else and let us do it." And I almost feel like that could be what happens.
Yeah, let me take you back to Mayweather and Pacquiao, which I wrote about for years and years and years, and it not happening. 5 years. They met at a basketball game in the green room by chance and passed each other, and then someone jumped on it straight away to get it made, because maybe they had been kept apart in some ways, but it sometimes takes a force majeure, an extraordinary event, to get these things over the line.
We are edging closer to what some people are calling the fight of the century. I'm not quite sure about that, but it is a big one. September 13th, I'm talking Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford. Have you changed your opinion? In fact, let's go back a month. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think you edged Canelo. Am I wrong or right?
Well, first of all, I've got to ask you a question, and it relates to the last section. I'm going to throw this at you.
Go on.
They're both on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Which does bigger numbers, Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, or Terence Crawford against Saul Canelo Alvarez?
Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis.
75 million?
No, not that much. No. No, I think we have to change these figures in our head because I think Jake Paul, Mike Tyson was such an outlier because it was Mike. Like it was Mike Tyson. So you had a generation of people that are 60 and 70 and 80 that would have watched Mike. Gervonta doesn't have that. Gervonta's still very much this generation. So I'm thinking more 25.
Oh, so I think Canelo and Crawford does more then because I think 30 million.
The Mexicans alone. All the Mexicans alone.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to correct you there, but I'm just suggesting.
No, fair.
So I just had to throw that in anyway. So I was with Crawford at the first press conference. I've swung to Canelo during the interim. I'm back on Crawford at the moment. But last night, while I was driving back from paddleboarding, I had a momentary lapse and I went to Canelo again. The good thing is we really don't know. Logic should tell me to go for the big guy, but I just have a feeling that he throws single shots, not combinations anymore. And if Crawford can deal with them and time Canelo, he can win the fight. I'm signed to go. I cannot wait to be there. I know you may be working Windsor Park. Is that right?
I am. I'm not disappointed at all because it's such a big fight. Paddy Donovan, Lewis Crocker, but
it's not the fight of the century, though, is it?
It's not the fight of the century. It's not the fight of the century. No, it isn't. It isn't. I'm trying to see if I can get a jet to get me from Windsor Park to Vegas, but no, can't happen. It can't happen. I literally have looked at. Is there a way to get to the airport and get this? But there isn't.
Is it on the Saturday night as well then?
It is, yeah.
I know you need 11 hours to get there.
You need 11 hours. You need 11 hours. So
you can always come for a day or two in the build-up.
I'm actually thinking about doing that. Like come in at least one of the days, the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and then just fly back.
We can do our show from
Wednesday
there.
and Thursday. Yeah. Honestly, everyone's going to be there. As you mentioned, everyone. By the way, I'm leaning heavily Crawford now.
How are you?
Heavily. Yeah, like to the point where in my head it's like 70-30 Crawford
now. That's
I've gone big. He's been putting out these Instagram reels and I'm like, sold. Take my money. He looks fantastic. He looks sharp. He's got that thing in his eyes. You've sat with him where he can be funny and jovial, but he also can be very scary and intimidating.
Very intense character, Terence.
Very intense.
But
the
very chill
grown
as well.
out.
But chill, but intense. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's unbeaten. He's 41-0.
And he's 2 years older than Canelo, though.
You wouldn't know it.
It's staggering.
You wouldn't know
isn't it?
Yeah.
Has he lied about his age, do you reckon?
Maybe could be a bit younger. But Crawford has boxed half the rounds that Canelo's boxed in his career.
But that's to his advantage. That's to his advantage.
Yeah, he's so much fresher. He's had one fight a year for the last 6 years. He's literally fresh as a daisy. And he knocks people out. Apart from the Madrimov fight, he doesn't go the distance. So he's getting rid of people early as well. So he's a lot fresher. And I can't get rid of that Canelo performance against Skull from my brain. I know Canelo wasn't up for it and stuff, but he just looked so off. He looked old, didn't he? Well, I don't know.
I've got all the same things in my head that Crawford's boxing skill. What Crawford has always done, people criticise the Israel Madrimov performance. I was there live for that in Los Angeles. And I think Crawford has this ability and desire when he fights someone. He never does too much. He just does enough to win. And I think we may see him raise his game, or I think we will see him raise his game against Canelo. It wouldn't surprise me if Canelo wins. It wouldn't surprise me if Canelo hurts him during the fight. But this is Crawford's moment. This is Crawford's moment, isn't it? This is his crowning moment of his career. It's not Canelo's crowning moment.
No. No. Agreed.
So it's all about what Crawford can do in this fight. It's
okay.
So that's where we are with it.
Yeah, September 13th, that one. Final question on that fight. And this is a big if. So you can say, Ade, shut up, because it ain't going to happen. If Crawford stops Canelo, does he become pound for pound number one?
Yeah, no question at all. No question at all. Okay. Because going up 2 weight divisions, having started off in the lightweight division,
Okay. What if he just beats him?
There's a bet.
Does he jump Usyk?
Well, he's number
Does
three.
he jump Usyk?
He's number 3 versus number 8 in the ring, pound for pound magazine rankings. Terence is 3 and Canelo's 8. You got to go a long way to beat equal first with Usyk. But this is the moment with Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh and the UBO, the Unified Boxing Organization, with TKO Holdings. This is the moment where there's a revolution, a paradigm shift. Can boxing return to what it was in America? In my view, they should have been taking the big heavyweight shift that they've created to America as well, with all these names that we're aware of in Europe and Saudi, and aligning with all those other young stars that we mentioned earlier. This is a really, really, really big moment for Turki Al-Sheikh and American boxing, because he wants to make a big difference there with this. And it's on Netflix, and it's a really big moment. That's why I feel I have to be there for this, even though I'm going to miss Crocker and Donovan as well. It's a big news moment in the sport.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.